Hi, I'm out in the countryside. Look at that. That's my view in the morning. This is just a little break we're taking away, and well, a lot of time to myself. Ironic really that one must go to a cabin to escape cabin fever. The cabin fever of living in the city centre or close to the hub of activity is it's this constant noise of expectation that has no real sort of valid voice to it. So you end up with like quite a lot of discordant emotions in conflict with each other. Now, one thing I've just found out by being on this little retreat of mine is that, well, there's a certain element of garden to this world, which is, somebody like me has to come to the garden to notice that. I mean, if you just like philosophize about it when you're living in the concrete state, it becomes like an asserted emotional plea, not really even a philosophy. But this world is kind of like a garden, and quite a lot of the aspects of modern civilization is about trying to turn it into a patio. And patios serve a purpose in a garden. They are not the garden. The garden is the wilderness where we can see it, and it requires our attendance sometimes to ensure that the weeds and the predators don't take domain. And how's that for a political philosophy for you? Not to like draw attention to the divisive rhetoric that comes from any sort of belief system, but more in the idea that if we can keep the predators and the weeds tended to, then we don't need to become part of their brethren, and we don't need to succumb to them, and that just requires some gardening. Neurology, evolution, climate change, industrial, military complex, oil, institutionalized checks and balances that aren't being checked or balanced. The hypocrisy exists the minute you claim values, and being alive is value number one, I feel. If you were to put it on a flowchart, question 1, are you alive? Yes, no. Alright, I'm going to pick up some of these dead leaves, and they are actually literally dead leaves. You can see all this here, I've cleared all this area, because if you don't get rid of the dead stuff that's lying on top of the up and coming can get drowned in rot. The phrase "go to hell" came about on a flat world when ostracizing people was okay because of unquestionable tribalism. Nowadays, with identity politics, so many different boundaries defining so many different types of tribes, that there's no clear defined tribal war anymore. There's just tribes with grievances and handicaps, and let's be honest about this, really, the planet is a reality. Now I have this thing where we can't agree which way's up. If all of us were to point up, we'd all be pointing to a different place in the universe, and we can never agree on up. But if we all point down, we'll all be pointing at the centre of the earth. And that is as grounding a philosophy as you're ever going to get. That's the common ground, alright? We're standing on it. If you're having trouble finding common ground, look where, look at that thing that's stopping you getting pulled towards the centre of the planet. So, yes, philosophically speaking, we can agree which way's down, and we will never agree which way's up. Because the size of the cosmos, even if we tried pointing at the same thing, the divisions of incrementals of how our finger points will spread out over space-time to unknowable distances. So we can agree which way's down. I reckon we should start there. Stop the fighting.